followed by a special meeting of the Board of Commissioners, February 3rd, 2025, at 6:30 PM. Please call the roll for the record.
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith Morrow.
Here.
Commissioner Recton.
Here.
Commissioner Sutherland.
Here.
Mayor Kaduli.
Here. This evening at our caucus meeting, we are going to have a presentation, and I'd like to welcome Megan. Come on up, Megan. From Habitat for Humanity to discuss their program for repair of homes.
I am going to be looking at my phone because that's where my notes are, so I apologize in advance. So my name is Megan Golicky. I'm the Director of Operations at Habitat for Humanity. So first I'm going to just cover a little bit about what Habitat is and what it isn't, and then go into the specifics of the repair program. So our kind of slogan, our values is to build strength, stability, and self-reliance through shelter, and we do that through several different ways. We envision a place where everyone has a decent place to live, so we seek to put God's love into action. We build homes, community, and hope. Here locally, we were founded in 1986, and our service area spans 9 different counties, so that's why we call it Greater Cincinnati, covering Hamilton County and then all of the counties that touch it as well. Our model, our home ownership model, which again I'm going to skim through this, but our home buyers are selected for affordable home ownership. It's 30 to 80% of the area median income, and it can pay a mortgage up to $800 per month. So that's need for housing, willingness to partner, and ability to pay. So those are the 3 sections of what it means to become a Habitat home buyer. Most people think that Habitat gives away homes. We actually don't. It's an affordable, traditional mortgage throughout actually the world. So we're in over 72 countries in the world, and I work for just the one locally. Home buyers put in about 250 hours on their home, building their home, taking financial classes, working alongside volunteers and staff, and then they purchase their home at 0% interest mortgage, and it's usually typically 30-year traditional mortgage. What we do, so I like to say we create, we preserve, we advocate, and we build the workforce development. So we're creating affordable homeownership opportunities. We're preserving, which is why I'm here today, through our different repair programs, advocating for affordable housing, and then we also have a construction training program for the trades. For repairs specifically in fiscal year 24, which just ended just recently over the summer, we did actually 166 repairs, and we helped 325 plus families since we started. And this year we're hoping to do around 200, which that year ends at the end of June. So our critical home repair program, we believe that everyone deserves to have a safe, decent, and affordable place to live. And if you own a home or are trying to buy a home or preserve your home, we all know how expensive that can be these days, especially living in an historic neighborhood or area where it is very expensive to rehab or repair your home when you're just trying to pay your mortgage. So those can really build up, and those costs can really build up. So this is one of the repairs you're going to see on the previous drawing, a before and after. That's just one example of the many types where we're doing accessibility changes, where we're doing concrete and we're putting in new stairs, which that is not code enforced clearly. So we're putting up railing and things like that and replacing concrete or putting in concrete because they didn't even have any. So these are just some examples of the typical types of repair programs we have. The first one that we started with was our veteran repair program. That was through a partnership with the Home Depot Foundation, and it's for military connected families. So as a military spouse, I know a lot about military sacrifices, but families are affected, not just the veteran. So we really wanted to open it up to surviving spouses and for caregivers of veterans. So making sure that all families of military families can be served through that program. And then a few years ago, we started our Aging in Place program, which is for adults 60 plus homeowners. And we do critical home repairs and accessibility modifications through that program. These programs are very similar, it's just who's served through the program. So the types of repairs that we're doing, because most of our veteran population is already in that 60 plus, they're almost always going to be served in both, but with the Aging in Place, we're able to serve more than just veteran households. The last two are going to be our newest programs. Let's Save Ohio is through the state, where we received funding through Hamilton County and Claremont, and we partner with LISC and working in neighborhoods to help homes be a little bit safer, especially for families with younger individuals. So we're able to do larger repairs than our typical program, which I'll go into a little bit more about what that looks like. But through this program, we're able to do a lot more, but we do lead-supported repairs as well. So we're doing new roofs, siding repairs, dealing with chipping paint, things like that. And then we all, windows, lots of windows. I think I just saw one of them come to my inbox that had 70 windows. So lots of windows through this program and siding. And then the Revive and Thrive Loan Program is the only program that we partner with those same organizations, LISC, WIN, United Way, and the Greater Cincinnati Foundation, and it's the only one that has a payback, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but this is the only one with a payback, and it's a lower interest loan program where they can get different types of that. For those two programs, Let's Safe and Revive, we're just the general contractor. We're not doing all the intake, all the applications, things like that. But for our other typical ones, we are. So those are just some of the different types of programs that we have. I'm going to pass around after I finish. I'll put these up wherever it is you see fit. But you'll be able to see our application and review our application for our traditional program, just so you can get an idea of the things that we ask for, what partnership looks like with us, so you can see what Habitat does in the repairs. Also have flyers and things like that, so you can take a look at on your own. All right, so the qualifications for this program. So like I said, that we have a 9-county region, and so you have to live within one of those counties, and guess what? Newport's in one of those counties. And then the type of home, so it has to be a single-family house. We don't work on any mobile homes or things like that, or multifamily, and it has to be owner-occupied. For example, with the veteran doesn't have to be the homeowner, but the owner of the house has to live in it. They have to be current on taxes and mortgages and homeowners. They have to have homeowners insurance. But if your insurance is about to drop you, we can help talk to your insurance and say, hey, Habitat's going to partner with this family. We're going to help them with their insurance. Will you still provide for them if they send you proof once we're finished with these? So we have done that a lot. And then those demographic requirements, 60 plus or military connected family. And then that household income. The household income is that 80% of the area median income, which will be on the next slide. So this is 80%, that's the maximum monthly gross income for our programs across the board. But what you'll notice different with this compared to our homeownership is there's no minimum, because in our programs there's no payback. Most of our families in this program are not in the top 80. They're actually mostly living on Social Security. So you're going to see that a lot. I think I just today approved someone who makes $7,000 a year, and I approved them for a $10,000 repair. So that, you can just see from the numbers why it's really important to not have much of a payback for this program, because even if you have a sliding scale, that little bit of a payment can be detrimental or make a huge impact on the family. So that's why we do not have a minimum. Like I said, there's no out-of-pocket repairs. And then the types of repairs, I'm just going to list off a few. shower conversion. Most of our housing stock in the tri-state area is not very accessible. So one of the most common things we'll see is stair lifts, tub to shower conversions. Those are going to be the most obvious accessibility ones. And then it's very hilly, so you're going to see a lot of ramps as well. But other common ones that we do are water heaters, HVAC, lots of roof repairs and replacements. And then alleviation of code violations, which I know I've talked to some of you about that work that we do. We partner with different jurisdictions and different communities to help families with code violations. And things that are not a part of a program are going to be full renovations. If the home isn't going to be livable by the time we are finished with the repair, then we can't do the repair because we don't want to still have someone not living in the home. Mold remediation or structural, so we're not going to jack up your house or anything like that because that's typically out of our funding availability. And then anything cosmetic. So if you want new cabinets because you want them to be blue instead of green, we're not going to replace them. But if your cabinets are going to be a safety hazard and they might fall, then we would replace those. All right, so those other partnerships that I talked about, so this is why I think this is important because it's what partnerships can look like in different ways with partnership with Habitat. The Lead Safe Ohio is a partnership between Hamilton County, the health department there. They actually do our clearances for lead. Claremont County, we are everything for that program. With Hamilton, we're just the GC, but with Claremont, we partner strictly with the county, and we take intake applications, we do outreach, and we are working directly with the state versus with Hamilton. So what's nice about this tailoring is you can kind of do what works best for your area. And then the Revive and Thrive, which I won't go into a ton of detail, but those are our partners with that program. So we're all able to bring in funding through different mechanisms. United Way has been really helpful because we've been using their 211 to help with intake of interested applicants. All right. So now I'm going to kind of open it up to questions. That's a very broad overview, but I'm going to open it up to any questions that you all might have.
Questions on the board first? I know we have lots, so Ken, go first.
Sure.
I'll try to answer the best I can.
You know, Northern Kentucky Water is going through a lead assessment program right now with regard to the service lines. Would you replace the service line?
So most of our programs, we work all with subcontractors. So our actual staff isn't doing the work, our subcontractors do.
Right.
That is not what we do currently. We don't do any lines. It's usually supportive measures. So it's windows, sidings, roofs, things
Okay.
like that. But that's something that we could look into. We've never been asked to do those types of repairs.
And your lead services are in Ohio only, is that right?
Yeah, because we have funding for that. We don't typically do lead because our funding for our normal program is about $10,000 per repair. Try not to say that super publicly because it can be dependent on what we have, and we focus on one primary repair.
Okay.
So if a home needs, if they really want an updated furnace, but their roof is drastically leaking, we're going to just do the roof because not going to do much work if you have a new furnace and your roof is leaking.
In the counties that you work within, you mentioned them.
Hamilton, Butler, Claremont, Warren, Boone, Kenton, Campbell, Ohio, and Dearborn in Indiana. Only took me like 7 years to memorize that.
Has that footprint expanded over the years? I think it started smaller and it's been growing, right?
Yeah, it hasn't grown in quite a while, but in 2013, so there's about 1,100 Habitat affiliates just in the country. So, and in this area, in about 2010, there were 3. So there was one in Northern Kentucky, there was one in the tri-state area, and then there was just one in Cincinnati. And we were all asking the same people for money. So we merged in 2013. So all of those 3 habitat, chapters, we call them affiliates, merged, and we haven't grown any more counties since then, but we get asked a lot about other counties like Grant County to join in because they don't have a habitat.
You mentioned housing types, and you won't do mobile homes. Does that exclude manufactured housing sitting on foundations or not?
Actually, a really good question. We haven't had any that have applied ever,
Okay.
but I'm actually looking into building manufactured homes
Good, good.
currently. And so I'd be absolutely willing as long as it wasn't a multifamily, like an apartment or
Okay. All right,
things
cool.
like that. But absolutely.
Thank
They
you.
go to the same codes as everything else. So
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thanks, Tom. I'm
No
good.
problem, Ken. Anyone else?
Yeah, so I did hear you talk about the various programs that you typically do, but I also heard you say about being able to tailor a program for what's needed in a community. And we've talked about this in the past, particularly with regard to some of our parts of the community that are local historic districts and struggling or perceiving that they may have problems in being able to do facade work. And would we be able to craft a program in partnership with you for that?
Yeah, there's only a few things which I think I've mentioned all to you, but there's a few things that just to be a habitat chapter, you have to follow things like we can't work on rentals, and this is because of Habitat International rules. We can't work on rentals. They have to be within that 30 to 80%, up to 80 for these programs. So there's a couple things that we wouldn't want to change, but absolutely.
I have a follow-up question on that then, and it all sounds really wonderful and exciting. Typically, when you work with a county or a municipality, do those government entities put in funds as well?
Typically, yeah.
Can you describe that a little?
Yeah, the most common I would say is matching, where it's, Habitat will commit to doing a fundraising, $100,000. And then a county or city would match that. And then we'd also commit to doing up to a certain number of houses. So we always want to make sure that we're trying to get as many as possible. So that's why it's good to have that kind of scope of what we do and do not want to do, because if you get into these homes, you could spend lots of money in them. So having a scope of what you do and do not want to do, and then the cap of that program as well.
I know in years past, as I've volunteered in some various aspects for a few different employers, are you still leaning on a lot of volunteerism from your corporate partners in these projects?
Not in these. We actually
Okay.
only take volunteers twice a year, and truly the biggest part of that is to bring dignity to the homeowners, and the safety of the volunteers or the people doing the work, because the work is typically much more skilled,
More specialized, yeah.
more specialized, more hazardous. And then people are living in the homes, and we don't want people to feel like people are intruding in their house. So making sure that we give dignity to all the families we work with and to keep people safe. So typically we just work with subcontractors and staff, but we do have volunteers out for 9/11 and for Veterans Day.
Nice. Yeah, that should dovetail into my next question. What kind of experience do you all have doing work with historic districts in the region?
I would say most of it is going to be through home building. Actually, wherever Scott is, have worked with Scott a lot on some of the historic homes. We're actually doing one in OTR starting here
Okay.
really quick, on Mohawk, on the other side of OTR. But I would say that's going to be our biggest experience. But all of the homes that we work, we're not denying anyone, so we work on historic homes. It's dependent on what you think of when you think of historic, but we work on a lot of old homes, a lot of times. But you also need to be aware of what the rules and regulations are in laws for that specific historic area.
Very good, thank you.
Well, Habitat's been an incredible partner, and we already had a partnership in which we did a historic home together with the Housing Authority and on Columbia Street.
Yep.
We
which
worked
wa-
on it.
you did,
Yeah.
as did the homeowner. And talk about dignity and joy. When that individual moved in, she was incredibly excited. So it's a great story to tell. The reputation of Habitat is incredible through the world, and the work that you do is well known. And figuring out a way to offer these services to our community is something I think that we're all in support of. Are there any questions or comments from the audience?
Julie, I did want to add one thing before I do that, is another big partnerships that's helpful with municipalities is outreach. So having, working with code enforcement or other types of entities, because you all know your community the best.
Yeah.
So that's a huge way or working with, your senior services or your veteran services, and knowing those areas that need something like a program like this. So that's another great way that partnership is very helpful.
Could you elaborate too on how the process works? So if we got people watching or here that are veterans or 60 plus or need some help, how do they get help, and what process do they go through?
Well, I have the applications with me, so that's the first step. But what I love about this program is you never have to talk to an automated machine. We have administrators that are in the office that can help answer your questions. And then we also have field staff as well. So when someone comes to your home, they're always wearing Habitat gear, and you always have someone to call as well. So you fill out an application. If you have something missing, it's okay. We'll let you know. Someone will contact you. They'll mail you something. They'll call you. So the easiest way is to just apply. I always say, don't deny yourself. Let us deny you. So, because you never know if you actually will fit the criteria. So thank you for asking that, John.
And one of the things that I know the board has discussed, and the ability to maybe partner with someone for a grant program, as Commissioner Morrow alluded to, we talked about that in perspective of the historic district that we put in the west end of town, where historically more people are disadvantaged financially. And what would be the process that we as a city, if we wanted to partner you with one of those things, how would we go about that? What would the time frame look like there?
I would say having an idea of what you all want to commit to. So if there's a certain area that you want to look into, if you want to focus on code violations, so that you come to the table with an idea of what you want to do and what your commitment level is, and having another meeting, right? We all need more meetings. So I'd say that'd be the first step, and then putting together MOUs and things like that in place so that we can start the process.
Could we do more than one, right? So we could do one for our newest historic district on the west side, but maybe we do one that's a citywide program.
Absolutely. Yep.
Very good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said apply and get rejected, because I think one of the things people think is that this is a program for people that have no income. As I looked at this, the 5592 times 12 equals $67,000 in income. So the eligibility criteria is not as narrow as you would think it may be. So it's open and available. Do you have a link that we could actually put up on our website to kind of kickstart this program and figure out a way to get it out to the community? Because it's already available,
Yes,
right?
yeah, programs, so like I said, those programs that I just mentioned, the main ones that we do are already live. If you already fit these criteria, you can do it. It's habitatcincinnati.org/repair. I will give you all the information so that you have it, but that's the easiest way, is to go online. You can, if you don't know how or can't download an application or you can't print it at your house, you can call us and request one, and we'll send it to your house as well.
I just want you to remember the name Charles.
Looking forward to hearing more of that name. I will make sure to leave these, can I leave them to Tiffany? I will leave Tiffany with flyers and applications for you all as well.
We may have a couple more questions than Commissioner Morrow does.
So some of the most used programs right now, I think, are the veterans and the seniors aging in place. And it sounds like both of those, well, one or the other, but 60-plus years of age. Would we be able to craft a program that goes down in age because, we do have a lot of families in Newport that are,
Yes.
they're not 60 years of age and they're not going to be veterans either. So,
Absolutely, yeah. So the reason that those programs are tailored that way is because we didn't want to have a 5-year waiting list to get repairs done, right?
well, yeah.
So, but with working with a municipality, you're able to tailor all of those
Okay.
things. So, for example, with Let's Save and Revive and Thrive, there's no
I see.
age restrictions or service restrictions. The only reason we have that is because we only have so much funding and we can only take so many applications and we don't want to have a wait list. So
Perfect, thank you.
our big wait is honestly with subcontractors. So we can process things quick on our end. It's waiting for subcontractors. So that's another way that partnership is great if you know a bunch of great subcontractors.
Maybe.
In regard to that, last year, from what you had funding allocated and what you were able to achieve, which was more? Did you have more funding because you couldn't achieve it because of subcontractors? Lack of
I
subcontractors?
would say more like we could have finished the repairs faster.
Okay.
So we have really great subcontractor partnerships, but they can get bogged down now that we've really ramped up all of the repairs that we're doing, that having more to reach out to so we don't have such a wait list. More just, hey, like, for example, tub to showers have typically the longest wait because we don't have great partnerships with 7 to 10, that can do bathroom accessibility with the right, they have to have insurance and things like that. So, and then we want them to be able to go back and do warranties if there's an issue. So things like that have been a barrier to finding more subcontractors. But we have really great ones right now. We just want to grow that.
But you haven't run out of funding. You've run out of subcontractors to actually execute the work.
Habitat raises funding on their own, but we always are looking for more funding, I would
Okay.
say. We're not going to stop, but funding has, especially in Kentucky and Indiana, has been an issue for us to be able to do more and more.
Okay.
And that's really due to the state type of funding. We don't see as much, for things like Let's Safe, Habitat. Ohio, the state Habitat, was able to get $27 million for Habitat, and that was homeownership and repairs and workforce development. It was spread out to all the habitats, but we've seen a lot more push on the state level than we have been to other states.
Thank you. Good.
In the state of Kentucky, what funds do you get?
We do not currently have, the only ones that we use funding for Kentucky is when we have funding from Habitat Kentucky. We have a good relationship with them. So when they've been able to find one-off funding, and then we'll use Habitat, Home Depot Foundation funding for veterans in Kentucky.
Nothing through the Older Americans Act through Kentucky?
No.
From the ed districts, no?
Not currently, but we love it. So if you have an in,
Yeah, let's talk. We'll
that
talk.
sounds great.
Anyone in the public?
I will
Don't
stay
be
around
shy.
afterwards.
I'm a veteran. In Campbell County, and I'm gonna cut this short because we can go deep. Is the program timeframe in relationship to my application being submitted is hypothetically 6 to 18 months?
Yeah, it depends on the repair you need. Like I said, with tub to shower conversions, they have about a 10-week wait to come and do
Speaking
it.
about the home ownership.
Oh, home ownership. Yeah, it's much longer than that. It's about 12 to 18 months for home ownership. Yeah, because we have to build the house, and you have to get qualified and take home ownership classes, like financial classes and things like that. So that's a longer time period.
Now, if there's an organization within the city that could possibly partnership, say they have not only they already the crew, the manpower to fulfill the obligation because they're builders within the city. Will Habitat Neighborhood Foundation, will Habitat Neighborhood Foundation be able to partnership through the city, be able to make it a PPP to
Any other questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Appreciate it.
Excited to bring that opportunity to the residents of Newport, and thank you for being here and spending time with us today. So that puts us at 30 minutes, and this was the only item on the caucus. So I think that we'll adjourn and reconvene for the special call at 7:30. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Radwanski,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Recton,
Yes.
Commissioner Sutherland,
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes. Welcome to the City of Newport special meeting of the Board of Commissioners, February 3rd, 2025 at 7:30 PM. Notice to the public, the city welcomes your comments during the public meetings. For special meetings, the board must adhere to the published agenda and is not at liberty to discuss other topics. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Redwanski.
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith Morrow.
Here.
Commissioner Recton.
Here.
Commissioner Sutherland.
Here.
Mayor Kaduli.
Here. Commissioner Order Number 11.
An order of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, authorizing Director, City Manager John Hayden to execute an employment agreement with Michael Wallishen for various legal services.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor, we had a search for this job. As the board is aware, the idea would be to have an attorney that will cover most of the citizen board meetings. That's Board of Adjustment, Historic Preservation, Code, and Tree Board. Several of those boards that I covered as Assistant City Manager. So this is, we did a search for this. Mr. Wallishen was our chosen applicant. He met with Dan and Billy in the legal department as well. Mr. Wallishen has had a practice here in Newport with his father. He's practiced for 15 years. His dad has practiced obviously much longer than that. And the tie to Newport's history is that Mr. Wallishen the Elder worked with Morris Weintraub, who was once Newport's city attorney and was well-known in that capacity for a long time in the legal world here. So Michael brings a variety of experience in his 15 years practicing law. He's done a little bit of everything. What I like about what he brings to the table here is he's a litigator. He's going to be able to go into the hearings and stand strong for the city as needed.
Thank you, John. Any questions on the board? Michael, did you want to come up and say something? I've never met an attorney that hasn't wanted to come up and say something, so you're welcome.
It'd be shocking if I didn't say anything.
That's right.
I just want to thank the board. I want to thank John. I want to thank Dan and everyone I met with in the last few weeks. It's been a wonderful experience. I can honestly say my 41 years, I've been in this community for 41 years. My dad's been here for 50. I knew his partner Morris, who was here for 30 or 40 before that, so I feel very strong for the city of Newport. I'm passionate about it. I'm happy to be here. It was, it's an exciting experience. I've always wanted the opportunity to stand with and stand for something, and I know how great Newport is doing, and I'm proud to be involved in it, and I thank you all for this opportunity, and I look forward to meeting expectations and standing strong when I need to, and being there whenever I'm needed. So I very much appreciate the time and the opportunity and the consideration on this.
Well said, Michael. Any questions for Michael on the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Smith Morrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Recton.
Yes.
Commissioner Redwanski.
Yes.
Commissioner Sutherland.
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Ready for the house. I need to be here.
15 years, we got.
Commissioner's Order Number 12.
An order of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, appointing Dalen Garland to the full-time position of Parks and Recreation Manager in the Planning and Development Department.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor, and for these next two, the board, we typically don't bring this in front of the board, but I felt like, as they're just promotions from within, but I felt like in this situation, it is appropriate to recognize and honor these two employees. First is Dalen Garland. Dalen's been with the city quite a while now in the Code Enforcement Department. Dalen, as everyone here knows, is very active in the community. He's very active with our youth. He's prides himself as a role model to young people all over the city. And Dalen is a natural fit as the Director of Parks and Recreation. Him and Kim Colson have already been working on events, looking forward to a lot of things that we've talked about, like youth sports and an emphasis on events, not just for youth, but they're also working on things for all ages, including some things at the senior home. So they've got lots of ideas and lots of energy, and I'm having a hard time keeping up with all the things that they've got going on. So very, very proud of both of them, and I think they're great fits for this role.
Galen, you want to say anything?
Yes, I will.
Uh-huh.
I felt like I had to since you called me out.
Yeah. You could
Well,
just say no.
First thing I want to say is thank you to mayor, commissioners, the city managers, John and Brian. It's a wonderful opportunity, and I look forward to bringing a sense of pride back to the community as a whole, you know, because we've been divided long enough. So it's a wonderful opportunity, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Dalen. Any questions for Dalen on the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Recton,
Yes.
Commissioner Redwanski,
Yes.
Commissioner Sutherland,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith Morrow,
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes. Commissioners, order number 13.
An order of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, appointing Kim Colston to the full-time position of Parks and Recreation Administrative Assistant in the Planning and Development Department.
So moved.
Second.
John.
This is also Parks and Rec, and this is Kim Colston. And for those of you that may not know, Kim has been with the city a long time. Her most recent role was serving as the secretary to the police chief. And in that role, she did a lot of outside things like help with Christmas tree lighting. She was involved in Memorial Day Parade, involved in the Easter egg hunt. Kim has been very devoted to the American Legion, a lot of contacts there. So while I'm sure that the chief misses her his office, she's already have any number of events already planned. I sent a list of some of those to the board last weekend, and Kim was just telling me when she was coming in that she's already got more plans since then. So they are really out there making things happen. So Kim is a longtime city employee, and we're very excited to have her in this role, and I believe that she's going to make us very proud.
Thank you, John. Kim, welcome if you'd like to say a few words.
I would just like to say thank you very much. I'm very excited because this is a great opportunity for me to be out in the community, and it's like my dream job. So thank you very much.
Great.
Kim, before you leave, pitch the comedy night, all right?
Oh, I am going to do that tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow I plan on being out there, but I do have it tonight. We have a benefit on March the 22nd. And what that is to raise funds for our Hometown Hero banners, so veterans do not pay for banners. So I've got other fundraisers going on also for Hometown Hero banners, because I do not want veterans to pay for them.
Great.
And that banner program is a great success.
Yes.
In large part for your effort and your willingness to commit the time. So thanks for that work in the past, and look forward to that continued work. Any other questions on the board? Tiffany, please call the roll.
Commissioner Redwanski,
Yes.
Commissioner Sutherland,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Recton,
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes.
March 22nd, it'll be advertisement on Mount Street, I'm making sure.
Commissioners, order number 14.
An order of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, appointing John Willis to the full-time position of Economic Development Coordinator in the Department of the City Manager.
So moved.
Second.
Got the vote.
Somebody's got to be a second.
Mayor, we went through a search for this position. We had several good candidates. In fact, a couple that we brought back for interviews for other roles that we're hiring for. But Mr. Willis brought something to the table that I felt like would really bring new energy into the city. Mr. Willis is graduate of William Mary College. He had spent, he is lifelong Northern Kentucky resident, lives in the city now. And he brings so much to the table. Beyond his energy and enthusiasm, he has a wealth of contacts in Cincinnati city government, here in this side of the river, as well as contacts in the governor's office. So he brings a lot to the table for an entry-level employee, a very good grasp of the issues that the city faces, a lot of positive ideas, and I think also a very strong willingness to get out into the community, meet people, work on businesses, and bring some exciting projects into the area. So I'm very excited about John. I think he's going to be an excellent addition to our team.
Thank you, John. John, welcome and say a few words.
All right, Commissioners, Mayor, thank you. So yeah, throughout this process, I just wanted to thank John and Brian, or Mr. Hayden and Mr. Steffen for being such a good resource. It was great to interview with y'all and learn more about the issues that are facing the city. Like they said, I was born and raised in Northern Kentucky, and I'm a resident of Newport. I've lived here for almost a year now, and I can only say that I feel very fortunate to have been in the city when this opportunity came around, and I just thank you all for extending it my way. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, John. Any questions of John on the board?
Only comment that, with you having a minor in data science, for many years, we've talked about to make data-driven decisions in this city and to have somebody that has that actual skill set with Tableau and R and Python. I'm looking forward to seeing you be able to bring that to the table with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else? All right, please call the roll, Tiffany.
Commissioner Sutherland,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Recton,
Yes.
Commissioner Redwanski,
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes.
And Mayor, John's going to waste no time. He's going to be here 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, ready to work. So
Yeah.
That's great.
That's great to hear. And again, this is a reconstituting of our team here in Newport. And, got to tell you that we're excited for Michael with your roots to this city and your fathers and all of those that came before on our legal team came out of your office, right? And now Michael. Yes. And then within our new team for Parks and Recreation, I know you're going to do good work. That's been a missing link in our community. It was cut very many years ago, and we tried to stitch it together, but to have a professional team ready to lead this into the new generation, we're excited. And economic development is something that is critical. This is something we've heard time and time again. How are we going to make Newport Mama Street better? You're going to be a part of that team. And all these things are a part of Brian and John rebuilding our team. So we're excited and looking forward to everyone getting to work and getting things done. That takes us to old business, Commissioners' Ordinance number 1.
An ordinance, the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, amending Section 31.44 of the Code of Ordinances regarding personnel within the police department.
So moved.
Second.
John.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is just an extension of the previous ordinance for the police department. This will formally bring animal control into the police department, as it will also codify Mr. Bob Steffen's position, which he had a long time been working in signs, and informally called an IDN officer that will codify that. And this is also the position of Barry Shields, that he'll be moving in as more of a community specialist in the police department. He'll still retain code for certain things that may be needed for police enforcement, but by and large, he'll be more of a community-facing individual, and also working with the bars. So it just codifies all of that.
Thank you, John. Chief, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm very excited. The IDENT team of years ago, when your father was mayor, we had a really strong IDENT team. And just for everybody's knowledge, our IDENT employees are people that will work with code, fire, zoning, planning, wherever they need to work to cut through any of the tape to make things happen more efficiently. So our IDENT team is as strong as it's been in a long time, and I appreciate the opportunity to build it and make it strong again.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions on the board? Any from the public? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Smith Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Recton,
Yes.
Commissioner Redwanski,
Yes.
Commissioner Sutherland,
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh,
One more.
whoa, whoa.
Oh, you got one more.
Oh, there's a problem with my page here. Hold on. New business. Resolution number 15.
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners, City of Newport, Kentucky, opposing any bill brought forth during the 2025 Kentucky General Assembly session by any member of the Kentucky legislature in full or in part that provides for the centralized collection of local occupational business fees, taxes by the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
So moved.
Second.
Not only did I almost miss it, it's a very important one. Brian, please tell us why it's so important.
It is very important, and the word of the day today is oppose centralized occupational license collection.
That's more than one word.
I know, but it's an inside joke here. So in 2012, the state had started floating an idea of a centralized occupational license or payroll tax collection system where they would collect payroll tax for all cities and communities across the state. And it failed at that time to get any traction. This appears as though that it's back. Kentucky League of Cities, I had met with those folks last week. This is at the very top of their priority list for the legislative session coming up this year. They are asking all the city members to enact a resolution opposing a centralized occupational license collection system for various reasons. And just a little bit of background on this. So the city's budget is derived 40% at minimum by occupational license or payroll tax. This puts a heavy burden on that system and the collection of that tax. And the state is looking to create a system in which they are the clearinghouse for the collection of that tax. There is a whole range of issues in which this creates. It'll first and foremost create a massive amount of confusion with the taxpayer and the communities in which this would affect. Beyond that, there is no current system that's in place for centralized collection, so one would have to be created. This is also going to increase fees along the way. This is certainly not going to be done for free. So the taxpayer and possibly the communities and cities would also be paying fees to the state for this service. The other part to this is they're fixing something that isn't broken. We've been doing this, and other communities across the Commonwealth have been doing their own payroll or occupational license tax collection for decades. So there's no issue to correct by doing this. Beyond the increased cost of collections, this is loss of local control. We don't know exactly what the state's rules will be on this. If it will run smooth, most likely it will not. And with our heavy burden on occupational license tax, it's very important that we approve this resolution and send a message to the legislature in Frankfurt. There are several other communities around us and throughout the Commonwealth have already enacted this resolution. Even though the bill has not been filed yet, it's forthcoming. Locally in our area, Boone County, Fort Wright, and I believe Park Hills is ready to approve this as well. Frankfurt also has approved a resolution opposing this.
Thank you, Brian. Good summary of that. Another thing is, occupational license, it's in itself is somewhat confusing to a lot of business owners, and this will only add to that confusion. It will not correct any of it. So, any comments on the board or
I'd like to
questions
make
on the
a
board?
comment. Thanks, Mayor. You know, I think a lot of people, when they think of cities, that the vast majority of our funds coming through, there are property taxes and our payroll taxes. This is our bread and butter, folks. This is absolutely critical to us to be able to provide the services that we provide our constituents. And that also applies to our business owners as well. So I think it is a vast overreach that is very unnecessary, so I strongly oppose it.
Brian, go ahead.
I was just gonna just clarify. So the bill hasn't been filed, but they're planning to file during the 2025 special session?
It appears as though we received some correspondence from KLC. It has not been filed yet. I believe that correspondence says this coming week that they will file it.
And I'll echo what Commissioner Radwanski said. This funding is absolutely critical for the funding of our city. You know, the schools really take the bulk of our property taxes as far as real property, and the city really is funded in large part by these occupational licensing fees. So centralizing it and taking, either adding to the fees or, creating extra hoops for business owners is just not a good idea, so to oppose it.
Well, one of the things too, just that comes to mind that we heard from KLC is that this is being billed as a voluntary system, so to speak. But it's essentially it's not voluntary for the city to be part of. It's voluntary for the taxpayer on who they decide to pay, whether it's the state or the city, which creates another layer of confusion for the taxpayer.
Thanks for better explaining what I was trying to say about the confusion. That is where the confusion lies.
Yes.
If they get to elect where it goes and there is no absolute pattern, it's even worse.
Absolutely right. And a lot of this, it all comes back to economic development. That's why the city has been so strong on its economic development over the years and work to bring development in jobs and businesses is because of this, because it does pay the bills.
Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
And what kind of organizations are lined up in favor of this, Brian? Who is being touted by the KLC as those organizations? Is it the Board of Realtors or the chambers lining up in front of it, or is the business community? At one time, when I was on the chamber board, this discussion came up for a regional collection of taxes. Because what we see, and it is a problem, and it is confusing to where you drop your nickel. You know, if a fellow who has the same name as me runs an HVAC business, they run around all over northern Kentucky, and where do they drop their nickels when they have to pay their taxes? So there is some degree of legitimacy that there's a problem with the system. They have to track how many hours they spend in each one of the communities and drop their 2.5% or whatever it is there. So who is lining up? I personally don't think that centralization at the state level is a horrible idea, but who's lining up in favor of it?
So it really, during my call with KLC, they didn't indicate that one particular organization is championing this effort per se, but there may be other taxes that could be brought into this at some point that they are hearing from folks about insurance premium tax. So then you start talking about all of the sources of revenue that the cities can generate. So, but to your point about tallying where their nickels go, taxpayers will still have to do that.
Yeah.
They'll still have to keep track of where they've worked at. So it wouldn't alleviate that that requirement for them to do so.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, there are no efficiencies in this, and the reality is that taxes collected in the local government in which you reside and do your business, you're the closest and able to get response from that government. If this goes to the state, there are currently limits in place that we're already allowed to do. So it's not like we get to do whatever we want and we're doing something that's out of order. This is all within the bounds that the state already mandates, correct?
correct, yes.
So the only thing they want to do is take all the money and then have us beg and ask for money back.
That's right.
We've been through this with cell phones.
With everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Everything
as soon as
goes
they did
down
the
this
cell
path.
phones, we ended up getting a dime on their dollar, you know, it was a horrible.
Well, it starts off at 100%, and then it goes to 90, then it goes to 80, and next thing you know, it's 10%, and we aren't able to pay our bills. So this is critical. It's the lifeblood of what makes our city work.
Absolutely.
You know, we have already set up a collection system, so the state has to set up a similar system, and that's just ludicrous that they would spend that kind of money to do that, so, anyway, enough said.
What, I mean, have they offered any justification or reason why they think this is a good?
No, and I've not talked to any of the legislators myself directly, just through KLC, and it's clearly to generate additional funds for the state. And you can surmise that this is in part and parcel to attempting to get rid of income tax statewide. Now, that's not being.
And why don't they just state that?
Well, and I've not heard that directly, but you can assume that that's
That was my
part to
assumption.
this.
Yes.
And it does get frightening for all communities, if the state can come in and then say, okay, well, we're doing occupational license now. What about IPT next? And then you start taking away, but not giving anything back, not giving the cities the ability to collect local sales tax. So it's just a take and not giving anything.
Mine is mine and what's yours is mine.
Well, I believe that we have enough, there is a KLC meeting. I serve on that board next Monday, and I will have more information. But I think that we have enough information at this time to vote, and I will bring more information to you as it is available.
Absolutely.
Any other questions on the board? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Recton,
Yes.
Commissioner Radwanski,
Yes.
Commissioner Sutherland,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith Morrow,
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes. And now I will accept that motion to
So
adjourn.
moved.
Second.
Commissioner
roll.
Radwanski,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith Morrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Recton,
Yes.
Commissioner Sutherland,
Yes.
Mayor Kaduli.
Yes. Thank you all for being here, and congratulations to everyone that was hired.